Hello and welcome to Living History. I'm your host, Mike Hauser, and today joining us on Living History is Cathy Shutz. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
My pleasure.
So tell us, when did you come to Thousand Oaks?
My family and I moved to Thousand Oaks, the Westlake Village portion of Thousand Oaks, in 1968, and at that time I had, of course, with my husband and 2 children, and later 2 other children, so 4 children, and my husband and I.
What attracted you to the area?
Well, it was partly we're in the middle of my husband's territory, his district with his company, and also we had read a lot in the paper. They had a lot of ads in the paper about Westlake Village and what was happening, Thousand Oaks. And at that time it was way out in the boondocks. And so but we came here because it was a good location for us for my husband's job. And frankly, we did look at some other places in the area, other cities, but Thousand Oaks was just hands down the best of the bunch. And so we took a chance and bought a house and are very, very glad we did.
So what are your first impressions of living here? How was it different from where you were before?
Well, we lived in a similar community up north. We came from Northern California, Novato, so it was a little bit similar, residential in nature, lots of young families, lots of kids in our particular area, which was something we were looking for. Of course, the homes were a little bit bigger and at that time were not expensive. I mean, they were for us, but I mean,
well, can I ask how much
speaking,
you paid for your first home?
Our first home was $34,000.
Wow.
And I don't want to tell you what it's worth today.
Well, don't tell us.
I don't know for sure because I've moved in the same area, but probably in the five and a half, 500,000, wow. 550,000 maybe. So
now, one of your first neighbors, you told me.
Yeah, one of my neighbors many years ago was Larry Horner, Larry and Betty, dear friends of ours. We still see them today, although we both moved to different areas. And Larry was sort of a little bit instrumental in getting me involved in Thousand Oaks politics and committees and things like that, because he was president of the Westlake Joint Board, which I later became a president of many years later. But he was very instrumental in doing a lot in the community. He did a lot with the youth organizations. He later became a city council member, and of course was mayor. And and he was interested in the school board. And Betty was very active in the community, as she still is. So they kind of got me involved in, handing out leaflets and doing whatever, and you kind of became more and more involved, met other people who were involved, and kind of snowballed.
Well, what are some of the organizations, the community organizations that you've belonged to, and what has that been like?
Well, I belong to the my homeowners association where I originally lived, which is in Foxmoor, and then the homeowners association where I am now. I'm president of my association, and I've been with that board for too many years. I don't want to tell you all those years. Probably 12 years. I've been with the Westlake Joint Board, been a member of that for probably 15 years, and in concert with that have joined many of the city organizations, Architectural Design Review Committee, because that was kind of a thing, because they wanted to make sure that the homeowners and the community members were represented. So, I was asked to be on that along with many other people as well. But, and that led to, was on the Campaign Finance Reform Committee, for instance, and some other things that were, I did a lot of work on the charrettes and the development of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard.
Right. And now what commissions or committees are you on right now?
I'm now on the, just started with the Residents Roundtable, had our first meeting a month ago, and it looks like it'll be a very good meeting. I feel like that's an area that I can contribute to quite well, because I've been involved in homeowner resident-related issues since I've been here.
Good.
Really.
Well, it's been now almost, 35 years since you've lived here.
Mm-hmm.
How has the community evolved over that period of time?
Well, it's grown tremendously. I mean, it's not the same as it was. And I'm not lamenting those days, because I think you have to realize when you move someplace that it's going to grow, and it's envisioned that if anyone looked it up, this population in Thousand Oaks, I think, was supposed to be 180,000. And I think it's probably going to be capped out at maybe 140,000. So taking my own area, which is the Westlake area, Westlake Boulevard was a dirt road when we moved here. There was very few, there was maybe 2 developments. North Ranch was not existent. Lang Ranch was not existent. I think they did a very nice job with North Ranch. I think that originally was going to be smaller homes, and they decided to put bigger homes there. But Lang Ranch is not my favorite necessarily, I think, but unfortunately I think there were reasons that happened. But I remember when Lang Ranch was hills and cows and Boy Scout jamborees down by the lake and the creek down there. It was beautiful. And but progress, you know, I mean, homes are going to be built, people own property, they have a right to develop it, and for the most part Thousand Oaks is developed, I think, very well.
Who have been some of the people in the community that have had the biggest impact on how Thousand Oaks has evolved into the community it is today?
Well, there's a lot of people that come to mind, and I think always you're going to hear Alex Fiore, and certainly he was wonderful. I remember meeting, you know, he'd sit out at the Jan's Mall and you could go talk to him any Saturday that you wanted to. But I also think Larry Horner, Francis Prince was very instrumental. I think a lot of Chuck Cohen, who's, you know, been on the city council and also an attorney in the city, has done a lot of wonderful things. He's been with the Alliance for the Arts. And Dennis Gillette, I mean, Andy Fox. But in addition to those people, I think the city staff, you have to mention Grant Bramhall, Mary Jane Laz, definitely. And those two as a team were fabulous, and Mary Jane, after Grant left, was fabulous. I've worked a lot with Phil Gatch. I mean, I think he's been here for a long time. A lot of the things that have happened are because the planning staff has certain requirements, and they push certain agendas and certain things that they feel are important. You know, John Prescott, Mike Sangster, you know.
So quite a few.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people. You know, and then the other people are the ones who, people with the Caneo Parks and Recs. I mean, it's just not your city council, you know, your city people. I mean, there's other people that contribute to the whole.
So a lot of people coming together to make it work.
Right.
Any particular projects that have happened in the community that you thought were really good for Thousand Oaks, or perhaps not so good for Thousand Oaks?
Well, I'm a little biased there, because one of the projects that I particularly like, but I was part of it, and our homeowners, all of our homeowners in the area was the Crusoe project, the promenade at Westlake and TO. And I have to really thank the city for a lot of that, because they are very proactive. They really talk with the developers when they come in with a plan. This happened, it wasn't always the case, but it became the case after we became, I mean, I think the citizens became, I don't want to say vocal, that doesn't sound right, but it became involved in a proactive way and in a positive way. When developers would come to the city, they always said, please go talk to the homeowners, find out what their needs are, what their wants are, what they are looking at for. And so they sent a lot of people to us for a lot of different developments in the area. And so Mr. Crusoe was one that we met with, and he just happened to have this vision that was wonderful, and it was our vision as well. And you know, we put those energies together, and I think he came up with a terrific project. And so it was a pleasure working with him. It was a pleasure working with the city staff. It was just an all-around very nice experience.
What are some of the challenges facing the community for, say, the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, I think there's a lot of people here, and I do hear people complaining about traffic, and I was on the traffic commission, but there is a lot of traffic. I don't really know what the city can do about that. I live near Westlake and Thousand Oaks Boulevard, which I think is one of the busiest intersections in the city. People have cars, they travel, their kids have cars. I'm not sure what we can do about the traffic. I think now that the big developments are finished, we used to get developer fees, and we were able to pay for a lot of our special things with developer fees. So keeping our general fund afloat without these developer fees will be a bit of a challenge, I guess, although we do have the sales tax dollars and other things to fall back on. But I think we need to develop areas where we can see more dollars coming in.
Well, as a traffic commissioner, are there aspects about traffic that the average person in Thousand Oaks just simply is not aware of, or they have the impression that the city can do this or that about the traffic, but the city really can't?
Well, you know, we do the best that we can. I think there is some misconception that we can do something about traffic. I don't really know what you can do. They're working right now on reducing some of the speed limits that we've been required by the state to have on some of our arterial roads like Westlake Boulevard, Lynn Road, and some others, where we've been required to raise the speed limit because of the state mandates, et cetera. And I know Mr. Gillette, and I'm not sure who else is working through the assembly, et cetera, to get that, let local jurisdictions and local cities have more control over their own destiny, so to speak. So that's something, and that's another thing about Thousand Oaks. They're very proactive. They don't sit back and wait until something happens and then react. They're always out there trying to look ahead and be a little bit, as I say, proactive in their stance and their coverage. So,
if I gave you just one or two sentences to describe Thousand Oaks to somebody who had never been here, what would you tell them?
Well, it sounds kind of, I don't know if you would call us a city friendly. And by friendly, I mean not just the people that live here, but all the people that work here, the city staffs and all the service clubs, the organizations, the volunteers. I mean, that's not a few, two sentences, but I would say friendly, and it's very safe. It's a visionary city. It's thinks ahead, proactive. It's a beautiful city with the open space that we've thought to, not me, but whoever has thought to keep that out there. I just think it's very community oriented. I think that's a real positive too. So it's very caring. I find it to be a wonderful place to live, and I can tell you, I have friends that have moved away to other places because of business or whatever reasons, and they have said, you don't know how good you have it. That it is really a wonderful place to live. Everything is close. There's so much for everybody to do. You know, you don't know until you kind of get out of that environment what it really may be like in the sort of the outside world, so to speak. So I take that to heart.
Good. What will be the biggest challenge facing Thousand Oaks in the near term, and how would you advise, say, the City Council to approach it?
Well, I would like to see, I mean, I think that a big challenge has been around for a long time, and I don't know if it'll ever get solved, is getting Thousand Oaks Boulevard sort of, I don't want to say revised, because we don't really want to do that, I don't think. The merchants have one thought, the citizens have another, I'm sure the politicians have another thought of how that might, evolve. And we've studied it for years and years, and I don't really think we're any closer to a solution than we were before. But I think we should keep trying, because I really think that's important.
What would your solution be?
I think it could be beautified a little bit. It's hard for me to say, because I really think the merchants should have more say-so than the residents, because they're the ones that do their business, have their businesses there, and they know what they need to do to have their businesses be financially viable, et cetera. So it's difficult for, I wouldn't want to tell them what should be done. I think it could be more attractive. They have done some of that on the boulevard already. Some put benches and street lights, and I think some landscaping. And I think we could do it. We're maybe making too big of a project of it than it really is, and maybe we could just do some landscaping and get some parking issues solved, and put in some, what do I want to say, pedestrian-oriented things to make it more amenable. But I'm not sure it's a pedestrian area. I don't think people are going to be strolling down the boulevard. I think there's destination places that you go. So I don't really have an answer either.
Well, of course, one of the buildings that's on the boulevard is the Civic Arts Plaza, where we're doing this videotaping right now. What were your thoughts when it was first proposed, and what do you think of the reality?
I think it's terrific. I mean, I was always in favor of it. I know there was a lot that weren't. I will say that I don't love the architecture. I think I would have preferred to see something, I don't know what exactly, but not maybe perhaps this type of a building. But I think functionally it's very, very wonderful for the community. I mean, I just went to a show last week, left my house at 7:30 and was in my seat and ready to watch the show at 8 o'clock. I mean, that's terrific, and it's wonderful for kids. I know they bring a lot of school children through from all over the whole area, not only Thousand Oaks, but Oxnard and I don't know where, all over the valley. And so I think it's a terrific idea. I think it was, again, visionary. I think it was, people had to really stick their necks out to get it done, because there was a lot of dissension and a lot of criticism. But thank goodness for those people who persevered and made sure that it got built.
What's been your greatest personal accomplishment since you've lived in the community?
Well, that's a hard question. I mean, family-wise, it's having my children raised here, and I think just the ambiance of the community and the cultural things and the sports and, parks and things like that. That's been a real plus. I mean, the kids have enjoyed it. They always want to come home. They love it here, So that would be. And I really enjoyed working on the Caruso project with all the folks that we worked with Mr. Caruso and his team and all the homeowners and everybody. It was a real positive experience, and it turned out well, and it was a lot of fun, and everybody enjoyed themselves, and that was probably my biggest, most fun project.
You have a personal motto that you live by?
Well, I try to be positive. I think take a positive attitude and a kind of a proactive positive attitude when, with the homeowners associations or whatever it happens to be that you're dealing with, whether it be the city or even at home or with friends or with kids or whatever it is. I think if you take that approach, you get more accomplished than if you approach it in a negative way. I think you have to look at the positives and try to compromise if it's necessary, and I think you get more done that way.
Wonderful. What does the future hold for Cathy? Besides the residents residents round table, any plans for any other?
No, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. I love volunteering because if I can't make something, I can't be there. That's okay because I'm only volunteering. I'm not getting paid for it. We do a lot with our children and grandchildren. They live in San Diego, so we're in and out of there a lot. And my husband does a lot of work for Habitat for Humanity. So he's busy, doing his thing with that, and I just do a lot in the community, and I get calls to help out here and there, and I'm happy to do that, and I like to be available to do that. And if we want to pick up and go down to San Diego to see the grandkids for a while, we can go for a couple days or a week or whatever. I don't like to be gone longer than that, though. Yeah. Because you miss too much.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to ask you about, we had discussed this earlier, was the joint Westlake
Joint
Board. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that organization and some of the unique problems that you've had because of where Westlake is situated.
Well, the Westlake Joint Board was organized in 70 or 71. Bernie Bennett was, I don't know if she was the first president, but one of the first. Larry Horner was a past president. Shirley Richards was a president. She's a real estate agent in the area. And basically it was originally designed to make sure that we kept the quality of life that we had in that particular area. It only encompassed the Westlake area, which was partly Thousand Oaks and partly Westlake Village. And it's evolved over the years, and we've had a lot of, I don't want to say battles, but we've had a lot of confrontational things that we've tried to solve in a proactive way and in a positive way with developments and different things going in. I remember the home care centers, different things with the lake. When Costco went in, there was a brahu of people who had problems, and we try to work through that. We try to work between the citizens and the governments to make it all work out so that everybody kind of got a little bit of what they wanted. So that's been a great organization, and at the moment most of the development is done. There's not been any real big problems, so we're sort of in a holding pattern, and we still have both a member from both city councils comes from Westlake Village and Thousand Oaks. It's every other month, and we also have a speaker sometimes from the Sheriff's Department or from we have somebody coming for Neighborhood Watch. So we try to keep community interest up, and we certainly want to make our government officials available. And I must say Thousand Oaks has been terrific, and Westlake as well. They come every other month to the meetings, and they spend 20, 30 minutes, whatever it takes, and people have questions, and they answer them. And it's a real good way to get in touch with your city people without having to call them on the phone or come to the city and speak under the public hearings or something like that. You can. So it's a great organization, and without a lot of controversial things going on, we're not having as many people there, but that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Cathy, is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that I should have touched on?
Well, I would like to say, I'm sure, I just do think that Thousand Oaks has a lot of positive things like that we don't see in other cities, and you might see one of them or two of them, but you don't see all of them, like our terrific library, our teen center, which I don't think you see in a lot of places, which I know other cities use, and they pay to use our senior center. We have a lot of programs that are in effect, a disaster response. I know they talked about last night at the city council meeting. There's just a lot of things here that I think a lot of cities have some of them, but they don't have all of them. And I know the city, you know, with the Canal Valley Days, for instance, that's I don't know that the city does that, but somebody does it. I don't know. It's volunteers, and they take care of, and that's a great thing. And I think, like I saw driving in the Arbor Day, they're having a huge celebration here this weekend. I heard it last night. I mean, it's wonderful. They're going to have hundreds of booths and food, and they have an open house City Hall in October usually. They didn't have it this year, but they have it. So, you know, those kinds of things I think is what really makes Thousand Oaks such a neat city, and that's what gets the community involved, and they encourage community participation. They don't sort of, oh, we don't want you here. They really say, please come and join us. Get on a committee. We want to hear what you have to say. And I think that's really a good thing. And I think they should be commended for that, really.
Well, Cathy, thank you very much for taking the time to spend with us.
Well, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate your calling me.
Great.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us for Living History.